Hello, how are you doing today? So today I hope your day is going well. So today we are going to talk about the story of Haile Selassie. Many people know Haile Selassie and many people know him because of the Rastafarianism, which people depict him as a god, and also people view him as somebody who is respected and also somebody who is a godlike figure. So I'll be explaining on Haile Selassie, the story, the backstory. Many people know the story which we know of Haile Selassie as just an emperor who died in the 1970s over there. But we don't know the real story of this man and how he became the emperor and how he became to be known as a Rastafarian godlike figure to some people who live in Jamaica, also in Africa and other parts of the world also. So we'll be talking about this man and how he helped in revolutionizing the world, also revolutionizing his own country, and how he was able to be the emperor, although in his lineage he was not supposed to be the emperor. The emperor was supposed to be his uncle. His uncle was the one who was in the lineage of an emperor, but the the lineage of becoming the emperor was shifted to Emperor Haile Selassie. So I'll be explaining all this, and I also will be explaining how he was able to die and how he was able to get out of his seat when time had already gone. There was a coup attempt on him, and also I'll explain the cause of his death. And many people speculate that he's not dead, and also the grave which he was buried into cannot be found until today. But around there, he died in 1975, where something happened, and later on in 1990s they were able to recover his body. But I'll be explaining that and how it resulted into him died, not a natural death also. So Haile Selassie was born in the year 1893 over there, 1893, and that time the grandfather was Emperor Menelik II, and many people, that time was the time which the African countries were being invaded by European countries, and also there were European countries wanted to colonize African countries. So this is not something wrong, because even the United States was even colonized, but a country like Ethiopia had resisted the colonialism of the European countries. Although they were advanced in weapons and also other mechanisms, they were able to resist. And this resistance came along because Ethiopia was a country where it had already, during the Roman Empire, Ethiopia had already acquired Christianity, and also it had also been advanced. Although during the Roman Empire, at that time, the Christianities, that time it took the chance to spread out of to the whole world. And also some biblical figures are known to have come to Ethiopia and also have died in Ethiopia. Some of them are the apostles of Jesus, and also many other stories, people saying other stories. So the emperor of Ethiopia is mainly linked to the biblical times, and also it is said that the emperor and that lineage is a Solomonic dynasty. Themselves, they call them they call themselves Solomonic dynasty. They were there by the help of their forefather, who was Solomon. And Solomon had sired a child with a person called Queen Sheba, and also that story is also in the Bible. So Ethiopia claims that this story in the Bible is basically for them, because Ethiopia is there are two countries, Saudi Arabia around there, Yemen. They also claim Sheba was from there, because it mainly says queen from the south. But also Ethiopia claims that, and also Ethiopia is the only country which has references and has that lineage and has that story which backs itself to the era of Solomonic era. So it is the only known people who claim that the person who was being spoken in in the book of Solomon, where Solomon he was visited by a queen from the south. So the empire of Ethiopia is mainly consisted of so they say they come from the Solomonic dynasty. So Emperor Menelik, when he was being invaded by the Italian people they had come a little number. They were like 10,000 against this, maybe against 70,000 of the Ethiopian army, which was led by Menelik. And at that battle of Adowa, that battle, the Ethiopian people were able to defeat the Italians, and after defeating the Italians, they were able to secure their future, and that's why Ethiopia is mainly referred to as the country which was never colonized. And Ethiopia was mainly consisted of a Christianity group and a Christianity community, because Ethiopia has its roots in the Orthodox Church, and there are two tribes in Ethiopia, the Oromo and also the Doromo. One of those tribes, the Oromo, is mainly Muslims and Arabs. So at that period where there was the colonization of also Arabs in Africa, the Ethiopia were able to seclude themselves and also remained their culture. And their culture, they didn't integrate with the Arabs so that they can become Muslims. They remained their culture. And also this lineage, for you to be an emperor, it is required for you to be a Christian. And that's how emperors were chosen, by Christianity. So later on in the years, when Menelik had defeated the Italian people, later on in the years, Haile Selassie mainly was the nephew of Menelik. The father to Emperor Haile Selassie was the brother to Menelik, the emperor of Ethiopia. But at that time, the father of Haile Selassie wasn't a person who will be the next in the lineage. He was just a person given a special type of power. That's why his name comes from there, which means Rastafari, a person who is given a head of something. He isn't the emperor, he's just a Rastafari. Because later on in the years, when Emperor Haile Selassie became the emperor, he was able to give another name, but the name of Rastafari was given to him even before he became the emperor. So Emperor Haile Selassie, at the age of 13 years old, he was also being given positions. He was given things to head. He was given a city to head, and that city was given a particular name, which was meaning the keeper of gates. So Emperor Haile Selassie was given a position since he was a small boy. He was given a large position since he was a small boy. So later on in the years, when Emperor Menelik started becoming sick, and that time Emperor Menelik, he had daughters, and the only daughters he had, there was a grandson who was supposed to succeed him. So later on in the years, when Emperor Menelik succumbed to death and he died, the grandson, which was supposed to be the emperor, was crowned to be the emperor. And after crowning the grandson to be the emperor, the grandson had some issues, which he was also a Muslim, and also there were speculations which he was young age, because he gained that seat at around the 18 years and also 19 years. So when emperor and that emperor, the grandson of Emperor Menelik, gained that position, he got some backlash on people, and also people didn't want him to become the emperor. So people were against him, and the most main thing which led people to be against him is that he was an Islam. He changed his religion to Islam. And if you know very well, Ethiopia is a country which basically is Christianity. So later on in the years, they were able to remove him, and it was given to the daughter of the Emperor Menelik to become the emperor of Ethiopia, which her name is Zaiditu. So Zaiditu, along the years, although she was the emperor, she wasn't given that respect, because respect was mainly given to for men, because they will command more power. So the person who caught people's eyes was Emperor Haile Selassie. At that time, he was known as Rastafari, Makonem Rastafari, Makonem, a name which was given to him. So at that time, he was growing stronger and stronger, and becoming, he was a regent of in Ethiopia, of a particular region. He was the one who was heading it. So later on in the years, he became strong, and also he was stronger than the forces. He became popular also in Ethiopia, and he was able to remove Zaidi out of the seat. And before removing Zaiditu out of the seat, there was a war which took place. The husband of Zaiditu was had refused he was adamant of getting out of the seat, of getting her wife out of the seat. So Emperor Selassie and also the husband of Zaiditu went into a war across the border, where the emperor, Zaiditu, was able to be the husband of Zaiditu was able to be killed, and later on, after 3 days, Zaiditu succumbed to death, which was normal circumstances, and also it was a natural cause of death. So later on in the years where Emperor Selassie became the emperor, he was able to rule around the 1930s and also to 1975 when he was dead. So at that period of his ruling in 1930s, there was some backlash, and also at that time there was a president of Italy called Stalin, and Stalin was a person, he was a dictator, and at that time the British were, they didn't know which side they were on, so they were trying to bring Stalin to their side, because it was the period of World War II. So they were trying to befriend Stalin and make Stalin their friend. So at that time period when they were trying to befriend Stalin is when Stalin declared war on Ethiopia and wanted to invade Ethiopia. In the first war where it took place, Stalin had sent his forces to Ethiopia, and fortunately, Emperor Selassie was able to defeat Stalin and his forces and his general. And that war is mainly described as David and Goliath war, because Italy was much advanced in weapons, and also everything, it was so advanced in weapons, tankers, everything it had, compared to what Ethiopia had. Ethiopia was just bare people who were wearing clothes like clothes which were not bulletproof, and also they were not in military paraphernalia. So later on in the years, at that the first war, Emperor Selassie was able to win, and that time Emperor Selassie had applied for, I think it was League of Nations. He had applied for a League of Nations, and he was inducted into the United Nations, and he was able to be the first African country to be in the United Nations. So at that time, the United Nations, you being an African country, there was so much racism, and also, although he was in the United Nations, they didn't have so much respect on him, and also they deemed him as a fellow African, just a normal African. So later on in the years, as Stalin saw that the army was defeated, he deployed another general who was assigned in a war which was in Egypt, and this general was much better, and he was a deadly general. He had many tactics. He was the best general for Stalin, which he could use to occupy Ethiopia. So Stalin had declared war on Emperor Haile Selassie and completely wanted to take over Emperor Selassie and also take over Ethiopia. He had a full mission to take over Ethiopia because he wanted to regain his power also in Africa, because other European countries had done that. And also it was so diminishing for Ethiopia to defeat Italy, and Italy was much superior than Ethiopia. So it was so diminishing for the Italian people for that war to have happened and Ethiopia to have defeated them. So sorry, it wasn't Stalin, it was Mussolini. Mussolini was the at that time was the dictator of Italy. That name of Stalin and also Mussolini is almost the same, so it was a little bit confusing. Stalin was a person, a dictator for, I think it was Russia. So Mussolini was the person who was wanted to take over Ethiopia. So Mussolini sent his own general to come to Ethiopia and take over Ethiopia. So this general was more superior. So at that time, Emperor Selassie was looking for help in other countries which were on board, and also went to the League of Nations, United Nations, which the League of Nations was the predecessor of United Nations. Before United Nations was created, it was the League of Nations. And it was the League of Nations came to be disbanded and later on to become the United Nations because it didn't achieve its goal to stop the World War II. So Emperor Haile Selassie went to over the world to look for help from other countries like also England and also European countries, but he didn't get help because at that time there was a tension and they didn't want to appear the enemy of the Italy side because at that time Germany was being aggressive and wanted a war. So people were trying to look for friends who will side into them in this World War II. So later on in the years, at that time, no one wanted to hear what Emperor Haile Selassie was saying. So later on in the years, Emperor Haile Selassie was able to the Mussolini, his general Mussolini was able to take over the capital city, and this made Haile Selassie to go to look refuge in another country, which was in the European countries, and also in looking for refuge in those countries. The Italian people were able to hold hostage the capital city of Ethiopia, although they hadn't spread in other regions of the country of Ethiopia. They had taken hostage of the capital city of Ethiopia. So later on in the years, Emperor Haile Selassie was able to get help from the European people, and this help came forth when Mussolini was able to side on Hitler's side and became friends, and also became people who would fight together in the World War II. So that's when Britain decided to help Emperor Haile Selassie and also drive away Emperor Haile Selassie from the country of Ethiopia. Drive away the Italians from the country of Ethiopia. So at that time, Emperor Haile Selassie was able to be helped by the British people, and they were able to drive out the Italians from Ethiopia and also the capital city, and also peace was restored. So later on in the years, Emperor Haile Selassie was able to rule perfectly. And also one thing of Emperor Selassie, he was using a type of rule which was the same rule which Menelik was using to rule, because that rule which he was using was he used to accept development. Unlike Zaiditu, who was the daughter of Menelik. Zaiditu was a person who just basically didn't want to change into out of the traditionals which she had believed, but Emperor Haile Selassie was able to embrace other development and also created railway lines, and also created electricity lines, and also brought a lot of development in Ethiopia, which led to his more popularity. So later on in the years, Emperor Haile Selassie had started having complication on his ruling. Around the year of 1970s, though it was his birthday, and there was a drought which had happened in a particular state, and that particular state, people were complaining how can he spend millions of dollars on his birthday and yet people are starving. So Emperor Haile Selassie, that's when people started having backlash on Emperor Haile Selassie and also wanting to overthrow him. And also they said he mismanaged resources of the country. And later on in the years around 1974, is when Emperor Haile Selassie, there was a trouble where his general for a particular place in the army was caught, because that place, the condition was not very well, and leading to that circumstance, the army people caught the general and forced the general to drink the water that they were drinking, because that water was not suitable for them. That water was dirty water, and no human being will be able to drink this water. So when they caught that general, so that news spread to the whole part of Ethiopia, and how that's how the general of the army started gaining power in Ethiopia, and also started spreading the notion of wanting to overthrow Haile Selassie. And they made a congress which was known as Degra. There was a congress known as Degra, which was it was put to be the head of overthrowing Emperor Haile Selassie. So later on in the years, Emperor Haile Selassie was able to be caught, and when he was caught, he was put in a house arrest. And at that time, being put in a house arrest, they took over Ethiopia. After, I think it was 1 year later, in 1975, they were able to announce Emperor Haile Selassie dead. And when they announced him, they had killed Emperor Haile Selassie by these general people of the army. So they strangled Haile Selassie to death, and they buried Haile Selassie in a tomb where it was in Ethiopia, another place where it was known. It was in the palace of Ethiopia. So after burying him is when they were able to take over Ethiopia officially, and also they demolished the emperor, and also demolished the type of rule of Ethiopia, which was monarchy. And that's when they deployed the democracy side. But at that time, these people were mainly focused on the rulership of Russia, which was mainly dictatorship and also communist party. So later on in the years is when Emperor Haile Selassie body was able to be recovered, and after being recovered, it was exhumed, and also being able to be buried again in our Orthodox church, which is in Ethiopia. So Emperor Haile Selassie, after, when you look at these figures in the war which happened against him and the Italian people, he was able to win this war. And also there was another war which took place between him and the rival party of Zaiditu, the husband of Zaiditu. He was able to win this war. So he was mainly a strong figure who was able to win wars, and also won the war of Italy against him. Also, it showed his strength of character, and also it showed that this person he was a warrior, and also he had good qualities in him. So he helped Ethiopia a lot, and also revolutionized Ethiopia. And later on in the years 1930s, he was referred by it was Marcus Garvey to be a member of a godlike figure, because Marcus Garvey was looking for a prominent person who would liberate Africans out of their trouble, because at that period in the 1930s, it is when Africans were depressed, and also they were being used, and also they were put into slavery. So Marcus Garvey prophesied that a king will come out from Africa, from the east, and coincidentally, it is when Emperor Haile Selassie was able to be coronated as the emperor. So the Jamaican people took this as a revelation, and also took this as a blessing to them, because a person will able to remove them out of bondage, and also help them, and also help the fellow Africans. That's how the Rastafarianism began, and also that's how they began to worship and also accept Emperor Haile Selassie as the godlike figure, known as particularly the second coming of Jesus Christ. So that's the story of Emperor Haile Selassie. Strong man. Although he was small, but he was strong. That's why the term of that war which took place with him and Italy is referred to as David and Goliath. If you go check out the height of Emperor Haile Selassie, Emperor Haile Selassie was not so tall, but the things he did great things, and also it showed us strength in his character also. So I hope you like this video. So check out for the next videos, and also check out the videos which I had removed earlier on. So I say thank you for watching this video. So till I see you next time, and please hit that subscribe button, and also after hitting that subscribe button, press that notification bell, so when other releases come from me, you'll be notified by YouTube, and also you'll be told on the things which are taking place, and also the videos which are upcoming also. So thank you, and also if you like this video, please share it, and I say thank you till we meet next time.